Hi guys, it's been a while and you've been asking where we are, how come we're not uploading anymore, and I'm here to tell you why. I debated coming back on here for a while, but ultimately at the end of the day, I love vlogging. I love looking back at our vlogs, and I love watching my pregnancy test video and telling Axel that I'm pregnant and just going back and reliving some of those things. Like, it's something that pictures can't do. And just having those moments and those snippets of our life is something that I love to have. And I want to be able to not only look back at the good times, but the bad times too. And so I decided to come back. We stopped filming around 20 weeks, and that was around the time of our anatomy scan. We found out that the specialist told us that Righty has a bright spot on her heart. Righty has a bright spot on her heart. Her kidney is slightly larger than it should be, and she has something called marginal cord placement. And the heart and her kidney are soft markers for Down syndrome. That's not something that we're necessarily worried about. Our doctor said that he was just telling us because that's what he sees. But more than likely everything's going to be fine, and I hate saying fine because things would be fine even if she did have Down syndrome. So, the thing that we were most concerned about is the marginal cord placement, which is where her umbilical cord is implanted on the side of her placenta rather than in the middle. So she would just be getting less nutrients and would be a little bit smaller. So after we had our anatomy scan on November 20th, we went to our regular doctor for a regular appointment. And he starts with Righty, he's checking her out, everything looks good. And he starts going over to Lefty, and I stopped him and I said, "Did you see anything that the specialist saw? Like, does she have that bright spot on her heart still? How's her kidney doing?" And he's like, "Those things weren't on Righty, they were on Lefty." Which was confusing to us because, of course, the specialist went by baby A and baby B versus Righty and Lefty. And we thought that one was one and the other was the other. And so we had been praying constantly for Righty and should have been praying for Lefty. So he goes over to Lefty and he's checking out her kidneys. Like, honestly, I wouldn't have even said anything. This is like 0.01 millimeter bigger. And that looks fine. And he says, "But what I do see is that her heart has stopped beating." And so he sent us home and he said, I'm going to call the specialist and see what he would do in this situation. And he anticipated that we lost her between 23 and 24 weeks. So we went home and just laid in bed and cried. And our doctor called us back and said, you're going to be in the hospital for 6 hours of monitoring to make sure Righty's still doing good and to make sure that Lefty's body will not cause an infection with her being in there. Because ultimately it is safer for her to stay in there and not deliver her, because it would be hard to put my body through labor and take out one but not the other. So we packed a bag just in case, and I'm so glad we did, because what was supposed to be 6 hours of monitoring turned into a week at the hospital. Got to the hospital and everything that had happened, I guess, kind of caught up to me, and I was just like laying in my hospital bed and I passed out and started going into preterm labor. So they put me on magnesium through my IV. That was brutal. I wasn't allowed to eat or drink anything, and they just kept continuous monitoring on Righty. And they kept taking my blood to make sure that the magnesium wasn't making my blood toxic, because I guess a lot of magnesium in your blood is not very good. So we spent the night in one hospital. They gave me steroid shots to help with Righty's lungs if I did deliver her. And the next day they transferred me to a higher care facility, and I loved being in that hospital. They were amazing, except for the doctors. So being at that other hospital was kind of a roller coaster, because one day we were told one thing, the next day we were told something else, and we can never really get answers. And I think with stillbirth, generally you don't get answers, which sucks. But they finally took me off of magnesium and finally cleared me to eat. I think it had been 2 days at this point. And as soon as they brought my breakfast in, another doctor came in and said, "You're not eating that. You are having a C-section today." Because my blood levels were too low. Specifically, my fibrinogen, which is a blood clotting factor, and I was severely anemic, and he just said, "We're delivering." And he said, "We're going to draw your blood one more time. If it doesn't go up, then you are having a C-section." So they drew my blood one more time, and at this point they had been drawing it every 3 to 6 hours. My arms were so bruised. It was insane. But they drew it one more time, and my blood levels went slightly up, and we didn't have to deliver, which was awesome because I was 24 weeks, and the outlook for a baby at 24 weeks is not very good. So that gained us another day. We were going day by day at this point, and just praying and praying and praying that she would stay in there and that my blood would be okay and Lefty's body wouldn't cause an infection. And it was just, like I said, a roller coaster. So the next day, the specialist that we went to for our anatomy scan came in and talked to us. And he said, I do not know why that doctor said they were going to give you a C-section. He said, if you talk to any other doctor, we would give you a blood transfusion before we took those babies out at 24 weeks, which was so relieving because I wanted to keep them both inside for as long as possible. And so they continued to monitor us, and finally, the following week, we got to go home. And we've been home ever since. I'm now 29 weeks, which is seriously a miracle that we've made it this long. It's been so scary, and like every symptom that I have, I freak out about. I've been on bed rest, but I have what's called an irritable uterus, and I pretty much am cramping and contracting all day long. And it's just been hard. I say we, but Axel, his friend, my friend, and my parents all helped us move into our new house. So we're in our new house, and that was a nice distraction. Except their nursery is here. And it's been hard, and we've kept the door closed since we moved in, and I'm nervous to set up the nursery and to build just one crib and to wash only one set of the clothes that we bought instead of 2 sets of clothes. And it's hard. And at first I felt like tortured carrying Lefty and Righty. But ultimately I'm glad that she's still with me. And I think she's helping out her sister by being in there, and I don't know if I'm ready to give her up yet. And it's going to be really, really, really hard on the day we deliver to be so happy and so sad at the same time. Axel and I decided that we want to see her. Even though her body is going to be not in the best condition. And she'll be very fragile. So we might not be able to kiss her or touch her. But being able to hold her will be enough. And I never would have imagined at being 23 years old and Axel's 25, deciding if we're going to bury her or cremate her. I don't think any parent should have to go through that. And it's been hard being home, and since we moved back to where I grew up, we'll run into people that I went to high school with, and people mean the best, but they say things like, at least you have the other one. And it hurts because it's like they're not interchangeable. Someone doesn't lose their mother and you say, at least you still have your dad, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. And I know people mean the best, and I know people are just trying to help, but if you've never been in that situation before and you don't have something positive to say, then just keep it to yourself, because on the outside, someone may look like they're doing okay, but it is so incredibly hard day by day to just get through the day. And some days are easier than others. Some days she's always on my mind. I don't think she will ever not be on our mind. But some days it's bearable. And other days I just sit and sob uncontrollably because of how much we miss her. And I don't know. We just ask for prayers and positivity and comfort to be sent our way. And I hope that if you guys are going through the same thing, that we can stick together and we can get through this together. And if you've gone through this, I am so sad that for how many people that I know that have dealt with this. And it's like, I know we're not alone, But that hurts me to know that we're not alone. And it hurts me to know how many people have to go through this. Because it's not easy. It's been the hardest thing I have ever had to do. And I don't know. But we love you guys. We're going to keep vlogging. And I will talk to you guys later.